Olivia Carter sat at her kitchen table, absently rubbing her swollen belly as she watched her husband Ethan scroll through his phone. The autumn evening light filtered through their modern apartment windows, casting long shadows across their expensive marble countertops. At 8 months pregnant, she felt both excitement and unease growing inside her. "I was thinking," she ventured, breaking the silence, "maybe we could start planning the nursery this weekend. Emma will be here before we know it." Ethan barely looked up from his screen. "Oh yeah, I might have to rain check. Work's crazy right now with this merger." His phone buzzed and a small smile played across his lips as he typed a response. Olivia pushed her untouched pasta around her plate. This was their first dinner together in nearly 2 weeks, and he'd barely said 10 words to her. She studied him, his perfectly pressed suit, the new designer watch he'd bought himself last month, the way his wedding ring glinted in the fading light. Everything about him screamed success, power, and lately distance. "The doctor said I should take it easy these last few weeks," she tried again. "Maybe you could work from home some days." "You know I can't do that," he replied, his tone clipped. "The office needs me there. Besides, you've got this handled. You always do." The compliment felt hollow. 5 years ago, when they'd first met, Ethan had been different, warm, attentive, present. Now he was one of the youngest partners at his investment firm, and something had shifted. The higher he climbed, the further away he felt. Olivia's phone lit up with a text from her sister. "How's the baby mama doing? Need anything?" She typed back quickly, "I'm fine, just tired." She didn't mention her growing concerns about Ethan, or the way he'd started taking mysterious business calls in the other room, or how his late meetings were becoming more frequent. The baby kicked and Olivia winced. Ethan didn't notice. He was already standing up, adjusting his tie. "I've got to head back to the office," he announced, grabbing his keys. "Don't wait up." "It's almost 8, Olivia protested softly. "Big client meeting tomorrow. Need to prep." He pecked her cheek quickly, the gesture mechanical. "There's some dinner prep service thing in the fridge if you're still hungry." As the door clicked shut behind him, Olivia sat alone in their perfectly decorated apartment, surrounded by all the trappings of success, but feeling utterly empty. She didn't know it yet, but this ordinary evening was the beginning of something that would shatter their carefully constructed world, and when the pieces finally fell, nothing would ever be the same. The following weeks brought subtle changes that Olivia couldn't ignore. She first noticed the cologne, different from Ethan's usual scent, lingering on his shirts when she did the laundry. Then came the locked phone, password changed without explanation. But it was the lipstick mark on his collar, hastily tucked away in the hamper, that made her stomach turn. One rainy Tuesday evening, while Ethan was working late again, Olivia sat cross-legged on their bed, laptop open to their shared calendar. The entries told a story: cancelled date nights, missed doctor appointments, increasingly frequent client dinners. She clicked through his work calendar, oddly empty for someone supposedly drowning in meetings. Her phone buzzed. A text from Daniel, Ethan's business partner. "Hey Liv, just checking if Ethan's feeling better. He called in sick today." Olivia's hands trembled. Ethan had left that morning in his usual rush, briefcase in hand, claiming he had 3 major presentations. She typed back a careful response. "Must be something going around, thanks for checking." Later that night she heard him fumbling with his keys at the front door. His tie was loose, hair slightly disheveled. He smelled of whiskey and something else, something floral. "Big day?" she asked quietly. "Exhausting," he sighed, not meeting her eyes. "Those presentations really took it out of me." "That's strange," Olivia said, keeping her voice steady. "Daniel thought you were homesick." Ethan froze for a split second before recovering. "Oh, right. I worked from home in the morning. Stomach bug. But the meetings couldn't wait." The lie hung between them like smoke. Olivia watched him retreat to the shower, her mind racing. Later, while he slept, she found his discarded suit jacket. In the pocket, a crumpled receipt from the Grand Hotel bar, time-stamped 2 p.m., 2 martinis, 1 Scotch neat. The next morning, while Ethan was in the shower, his phone lit up with a message. Olivia caught a glimpse before the screen went dark. "Last night was amazing. Can't wait until next time, baby." She felt the baby kick inside her, as if sensing her distress. Carefully, she placed both hands on her stomach, protecting their daughter from a truth she wasn't ready to face. But deep down, Olivia knew their perfect life was built on quicksand, and it was starting to sink. That evening, she called her sister, but couldn't bring herself to voice her suspicions. Instead, she listened to stories about her nieces and nephews, about normal family life, about trust and love, that didn't feel like it was slipping through her fingers. When Ethan came home that night with expensive flowers and apologies about working so much, Olivia accepted them with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She was 8 months pregnant, alone in a marriage that was unraveling, and terrified of what tomorrow might bring. The contractions started at 2 a.m., sharp and insistent. Olivia sat up in bed, clutching her stomach, and reached for Ethan's side, empty and cold. She grabbed her phone with shaking hands and dialed his number. Straight to voicemail. "Ethan, the baby's coming, please call me back." Her voice cracked as another contraction hit. She tried 3 more times while gathering her hospital bag. Each call went unanswered. Through tears of pain and frustration, she called for a taxi. "First baby?" the driver asked kindly, watching her wince in the rearview mirror. "Yes," Olivia managed between breaths. "My husband's working late." The driver's sympathetic look told her he didn't believe that any more than she did. As they pulled up to the hospital, her phone buzzed. Her heart leaped, but it wasn't Ethan. Instead, an unknown number had sent a photo. Through blur of tears and pain, Olivia opened the message. The image was dark but clear enough. Ethan at what looked like a hotel bar, his arm around a young woman. She wore a tight red dress, her head thrown back in laughter as he whispered in her ear. The timestamp read 1:47 a.m. The next contraction nearly brought Olivia to her knees. A nurse rushed to help her into a wheelchair, asking questions she could barely process. Emergency contact? Insurance information? Where was her husband? "He's not coming," Olivia said, surprising herself with how calm she sounded. Hours passed in a haze of pain and medical procedures. Somewhere between midnight and dawn, while Olivia fought through the hardest moments of her life, her phone lit up with text messages from Ethan. "Sorry, was in a meeting. Just saw your calls. On my way. Traffic is terrible." Each lie felt like another contraction. The nurses exchanged glances but said nothing, focusing instead on coaching her through her labor. At 6:43 a.m., Emma Carter came into the world with a powerful cry that seemed to shake the room. The nurses cleaned her, wrapped her in a soft blanket, and placed her in Olivia's arms. Looking into her daughter's face, Olivia felt something shift inside her, a steel core of strength she didn't know she possessed. Ethan burst in an hour later, his suit wrinkled, reeking of alcohol and perfume. His excuses tumbled out. Meeting ran late. Phone died. Couldn't get a cab. Olivia didn't look at him. She kept her eyes on Emma, memorizing every perfect feature of her daughter's face. In that moment, she made a decision. The woman who had waited up for Ethan, who had made excuses for him, who had buried her suspicions to keep the peace, that woman died the moment Emma was born. "Would you like to hold your daughter?" she asked quietly, her voice steady. Ethan reached for the baby, unaware that he had already lost everything that mattered. The hospital room felt strangely peaceful in the late morning light. Emma slept soundly in her clear bassinet, while Olivia watched her, memorizing the rhythm of her tiny breaths. A bouquet of roses sat untouched on the windowsill, Ethan's attempt at apology after his dramatic entrance. "You should rest," the nurse said gently, checking Olivia's vitals. "It's been a long night." "I can't sleep," Olivia replied, her eyes never leaving Emma. "Not yet." The nurse paused, her hand resting briefly on Olivia's shoulder. "We all have different kinds of labor pains, honey. Some just hurt more than others." Ethan had disappeared an hour ago, claiming he needed to handle some work things. Before leaving, he'd barely looked at Emma, treating her more like an obligation than a miracle. His phone had buzzed constantly, and Olivia had caught him smiling at the screen more than once. Her own phone lit up with messages from family and friends. "She's beautiful. Congratulations, Mama. Can't wait to meet her." Among them was another text from the unknown number. "Thought you should know the truth. There's more where that came from." Olivia saved the number but didn't respond. Instead, she requested her discharge papers for the next morning, called her sister to arrange a ride home, and began making mental lists of what needed to be done. When Ethan returned that evening, he brought expensive takeout and a designer baby outfit. "Peace offering," he said with that charming smile that used to make her knees weak. "Thank you," she replied politely, the food sitting untouched beside her. "Look, about last night," he started. "Not now," Olivia cut him off, gesturing to their sleeping daughter. "We should focus on Emma." Relief flooded his face. He thought he was off the hook. He settled into the visitor's chair, already pulling out his phone. Within minutes he was absorbed in texting, that small smile playing on his lips again. Olivia watched him through new eyes. She saw the carefully styled hair, the expensive watch, the wedding ring he wore like a prop in a play. She saw the man who had missed his daughter's birth for a night with his mistress, the man who thought diamonds and designer clothes could patch the holes he'd torn in their marriage. Emma stirred and began to fuss. Olivia reached for her, knowing instinctively what her daughter needed. As she nursed her baby, she felt a fierce protectiveness surge through her veins. This tiny person depended on her completely, and she would not let her down. "I think I'll stay here tonight," Ethan announced, not looking up from his phone. "To help out." "No need," Olivia said firmly. "The nurses are here. You should go home and rest." He seemed relieved by her suggestion, gathering his things quickly. After he left, Olivia held Emma close and whispered, "It's just us now, baby girl, and we're going to be okay." A week after returning home, Olivia sat in her home office while Emma napped, staring at her laptop screen. Daniel's email glowed back at her. "We need to talk. It's about Ethan. Can you meet tomorrow?" She'd known Daniel for years. He'd been the best man at their wedding. If he was reaching out like this, something was seriously wrong. The next day, with Emma safely at her sister's house, Olivia met Daniel at a quiet cafe far from Ethan's usual haunts. His face was grim as he slid a folder across the table. "I found these during our quarterly audit," he said quietly. "At first I thought it was a mistake, but—" He trailed off, gesturing for her to look. Inside were bank statements, transfer records, and credit card bills, all showing massive amounts of money moving from the company into a private account under a false name. Hotel charges, jewelry purchases, first-class airline tickets. "How long?" Olivia asked, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. "At least 2 years, maybe longer." Daniel leaned forward. "There's more. The account's co-signed by someone named Sophia Martinez. I did some digging." He pulled out his phone, showing her an Instagram profile. The woman from the bar photo smiled back at her, young, beautiful, and expensively dressed. Her feed was full of luxury vacations, designer clothes, and cryptic captions about living her best life with her secret love. "She's our junior marketing director," Daniel explained, "hired personally by Ethan last year." Olivia scrolled through the photos, each one a fresh knife to her heart. There was Sophia in Paris, wearing a necklace Ethan had claimed he'd lost money on in a bad investment. There she was in the Maldives. During the week, Ethan had a business conference in Chicago. "The board doesn't know yet," Daniel continued, "but they will soon. This isn't just infidelity, Olivia, it's fraud. He's been embezzling company funds to finance their lifestyle." Olivia closed the folder, her mind racing. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because you're my friend, and because you need to protect yourself and Emma before this explodes." He pulled out another folder. "These are the names of the best divorce attorneys in the city. You need to move fast before he can hide any more assets." As if on cue, Olivia's phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. "Working late again, don't wait up." She thought of Emma sleeping peacefully at her sister's house, unaware that her world was about to change. She thought of all the lies, the missed moments, the elaborate deceptions. "Thank you, Daniel," she said, gathering the folders. "I know this wasn't easy for you. Just be careful," he warned. "Ethan's not the man we thought he was." Leaving the cafe, Olivia felt oddly calm. The truth, as painful as it was, had given her something she desperately needed, a way out. After Emma's feeding that evening, Olivia sat in the nursery with Daniel's folders spread before her. Each document revealed a new layer of betrayal. Credit card statements showed dinners at expensive restaurants on nights Ethan claimed to be working, hotel receipts spanning back to their first year of marriage, theater tickets, weekend getaways, jewelry purchases, all carefully hidden under the guise of business expenses. But it was the emails that broke her. Someone, probably a sympathetic assistant, had forwarded her a chain of correspondence between Ethan and Sophia. Their casual cruelty took her breath away. "Poor Olivia," Sophia had written. "All alone with the baby while we're in paradise. At least she's useful as a cover story." Ethan's response, "She's too trusting for her own good. Makes everything so much easier." They discussed her as if she were a minor inconvenience, an obstacle to their happiness. There were jokes about her pregnancy weight, mocking comments about her dedication to their marriage, plans for their future once Ethan handled the situation. Her hands shaking, Olivia opened her own email and began searching old messages. Signs she'd missed jumped out at her now. Cancelled plans, transparent excuses, business trips that never appeared on the company calendar. A message from 3 years ago caught her eye, a dinner reservation confirmation she'd never seen before, dated to their anniversary. That night, Ethan had called to say he was stuck in Denver due to weather. The restaurant was in Manhattan. Her phone buzzed with a text from him. Big presentation tomorrow, sleeping at the office tonight. She checked the company credit card statement Daniel had given her. Ethan had just checked into the Plaza Hotel with a dinner reservation for 2. The baby monitor crackled with Emma's soft noises. Olivia moved to the crib, watching her daughter's peaceful sleep. How many nights had she sat here alone, making excuses for Ethan's absence? How many times had she pushed down her suspicions, choosing to believe his lies? A new email notification popped up on her laptop, more forwarded messages from the anonymous source. These were between Ethan and his private banker, discussing ways to move assets offshore. He was already preparing for the fallout. Smart man, she whispered bitterly. But not smart enough. She took photos of every document, uploaded them to a secure cloud account, and then carefully returned everything to its hiding place. In the morning, she would call the first lawyer on Daniel's list, but tonight she allowed herself to feel the full weight of her husband's betrayal. Emma stirred and whimpered. Olivia lifted her daughter, breathing in her sweet baby scent. "I've been so blind," she whispered, "but not anymore. Mommy sees everything now." In the quiet of the nursery, surrounded by evidence of her husband's double life, Olivia began to form a plan. Ethan had spent years weaving his web of lies. Now she would use those same threads to trap him. Olivia sat in the dimly lit cafe, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee she hadn't touched. Across from her, Sophia adjusted her sunglasses, as if trying to hide. "Why did you call me?" Olivia asked, her voice steady. "I wanted to warn you," Sophia said, her manicured fingers drumming on the table. "Ethan's moving money, offshore accounts. He's preparing for a legal fight." Olivia studied her, unimpressed. "And you expect me to believe you're helping me out of kindness?" Sophia scoffed. "No, I expect you to believe that I'm not going down with him." "You already have." Olivia slid a folder across the table. Inside were screenshots of emails, bank statements, and photos. "Your name is on half of these transactions." Sophia's face paled. "You wouldn't. If you're smart, you'll get ahead of this. Cut ties before the authorities start looking at you the way they're looking at him." Olivia stood, adjusting her coat. "But you already know that, don't you?" In the following days, Olivia moved through her routines with calculated precision. When Ethan came home, she greeted him with the same gentle smile she'd always worn. When he made excuses for being late, she nodded understanding. But behind every gesture was purpose. In the following days, Olivia moved through her routines with calculated precision. When Ethan came home, she greeted him with the same gentle smile she'd always worn. When he made excuses for being late, she nodded, understanding. But behind every gesture was purpose. "You seem different," he commented one evening, watching her feed Emma. "More relaxed." "The postpartum counseling is helping," she lied smoothly. "Learning to let go of things I can't control." His relief was palpable. That night, he actually stayed home, ordered her favorite takeout, even held Emma for a few minutes. Olivia watched him play the devoted husband and felt nothing but cold determination. During his late meetings, she met with Diana Chen, the city's most ruthless divorce attorney. In her sleek downtown office, they plotted strategy. "The key is timing," Diana explained, reviewing the evidence. "We need everything in place before he suspects anything. One wrong move and he'll start hiding assets." "How long?" Olivia asked. 3 months. "Can you maintain appearances that long?" Olivia thought of Emma. "I can do whatever it takes to protect my daughter." They developed a careful choreography. Olivia would gradually transfer small amounts to a private account. She would gather more evidence of his fraud. Most importantly, she would convince Ethan that she was too naive to ever suspect him. At home, she played her part perfectly. She didn't question his late nights. She kept the house immaculate. She even suggested he take that business trip he'd been hinting at. "You're sure you don't mind?" he asked, already packing. "Of course not," she smiled. "You work so hard for us." While he was gone, presumably with Sophia at some luxury resort, Olivia executed the next phase of her plan. She convinced Ethan to refinance their house, claiming she wanted to renovate the nursery. He signed the papers without reading them carefully, not noticing that she'd added her name solely to the deed. "You're making this almost too easy," Diana observed during their weekly meeting. "He thinks I'm broken," Olivia replied. "That's his weakness. He believes that having a baby has made me too exhausted to think clearly." Each night after Emma was asleep, Olivia documented everything. Bank statements, photos, emails. She created multiple copies, stored in various secure locations. The evidence mounted day by day, creating an insurmountable wall that would eventually crush him. Soon, she whispered to Emma during their midnight feedings. Soon we'll be free. What Ethan didn't know was that while he was building his house of lies, Olivia was quietly removing the foundation. When it finally collapsed, he wouldn't know what hit him. And in the quiet moments, when doubt crept in, she would look at her daughter and remember, this wasn't about revenge. This was about justice. This was about survival. I need you to sign these, Olivia said one morning, sliding a stack of papers across their breakfast table. It's for Emma's college fund. Ethan frowned slightly, setting his phone down. Didn't we already set up an account for that? Yes, but the financial advisor recommended a restructuring to maximize the returns. If we do it now, we get a significant tax advantage. She kept her voice casual, maternal. I've marked where you need to sign. Ethan hesitated for a moment, flipping through the first few pages. But the stock market numbers flashing on his phone distracted him, and he sighed. Fine. Just tell me if there's anything I should be worried about. Nothing at all. Olivia reassured him with a smile. He scrawled his signature on the yellow tabs without reading further, convinced that his wife was still the same trusting woman who never questioned his judgment. What he didn't notice were the carefully worded clauses, transferring most of their joint assets into accounts under her name, accounts he couldn't access without her permission. There's one more, she added, producing another document, for Emma's trust fund. This one was particularly crucial. Hidden in the legal language was a clause that would prevent him from liquidating their major assets without her consent. Again, he signed without reading. Later that day, Diana reviewed the documents with satisfaction. He really doesn't read anything you put in front of him, does he? He thinks I'm still the same trusting wife who believes everything he says. Olivia watched Emma sleeping in her carrier. He has no idea I've learned from the master of deception. That afternoon, she met with their financial advisor, one she'd chosen, not Ethan's usual man. They restructured their investment portfolio, moving funds into secure accounts that would be protected when everything exploded. Mrs. Carter, the advisor said carefully, these changes, are you sure your husband understands them? Oh, we've discussed everything thoroughly, she lied smoothly. Ethan trusts my judgment completely when it comes to Emma's future. At home, she maintained their normal routine. She asked about his day, listened to his lies about working late, even packed him a lunch he'd never eat. Every act of devotion was another strand in the web she was weaving. That evening, Ethan actually came home for dinner. He was distracted, checking his phone constantly, but he made an effort to seem interested in Emma's latest milestones. I've been thinking, he said suddenly, maybe we should look at investing in that new development downtown. Could be a good opportunity. Olivia smiled, knowing he was trying to move money before the company audit. Of course, honey. Why don't you sign the paperwork and I'll take care of everything? He beamed at her, clearly relieved. What would I do without you? I wonder that myself sometimes, she replied softly, watching him return to his phone, completely oblivious to the trap closing around him. In their bedroom that night, she heard him on the phone with Sophia, speaking in whispers, making plans for their future. He had no idea that future was disappearing with every document he blindly signed. Just a little longer, Olivia thought, cradling Emma during her midnight feeding. Just a little longer, and everything will change. The board meeting was called on a rainy Tuesday morning. Ethan had noticed the tension in the office for weeks, whispered conversations, uneasy glances from colleagues, his assistant suddenly avoiding eye contact. His company card had been declined at lunch. A small issue, he told himself. But when he walked into the conference room that morning and saw Daniel sitting stiffly, a thick folder in front of him, he felt the first real pang of unease. "What's this about?" he asked, keeping his tone casual as he loosened his tie. "We need to discuss your recent transactions," Margaret Wells, the CEO, said, sliding a stack of documents toward him. She slid several papers across the polished table. Ethan's face remained composed, but his hands trembled slightly as he picked them up. "There must be some mistake," he said smoothly. "I can have my team look into it." "Your team?" Daniel finally spoke. "Like Sophia Martinez, who you hired without proper vetting. The same Sophia who's co-signed on multiple unauthorized accounts." Color drained from Ethan's face. "I don't know what you're implying." "We're not implying anything," Margaret cut in. "We have proof. Years of systematic fraud, embezzlement, and misuse of company funds. The numbers don't lie, Ethan." More documents appeared. Hotel receipts, wire transfers, credit card statements. Each piece of paper was another nail in his professional coffin. "I can explain," Ethan started, but his phone chose that moment to buzz. Sophia's message flashed across the screen, visible to everyone. "Did you book our Paris trip yet, baby?" The room fell silent. Daniel cleared his throat. The board has already voted. You have two options: resign immediately, or we press charges. You can't do this to me, Ethan sputtered, his carefully maintained facade cracking. I built this division. And then you robbed it, Margaret stated flatly. Security is waiting to escort you out. Your access cards have been deactivated. As Ethan was led from the building, his personal items in a box, his phone started ringing. It was Olivia. Hey, she said sweetly. I just got a strange call from the bank about some accounts being frozen. Is everything okay? Everything's fine, he lied automatically. Just a misunderstanding, I'll handle it. Okay, honey. Oh, and Sophia called the house earlier, said something about Paris. Must have been a wrong number. The phone slipped from his fingers, clattering on the sidewalk. In that moment he realized just how completely his world was unraveling. Back at their house, Olivia ended the call and turned to Diana, who sat across from her in the home office. He's in free fall now, she said quietly. Perfect timing. Diana nodded. The divorce papers are ready. Shall we proceed? Olivia looked at the photo of Emma on her desk, then at the stack of evidence they'd gathered. Yes, she said firmly. It's time. Outside, storm clouds gathered, a fitting backdrop to the destruction of Ethan Carter's carefully constructed life of lies. The divorce papers arrived at Ethan's temporary apartment via courier the next morning. He stood in his wrinkled suit from yesterday, staring at the thick envelope with bloodshot eyes. Inside, Olivia's petition laid bare every betrayal, every lie, every stolen dollar. This is ridiculous, he muttered, fumbling for his phone to call his lawyer. But when he reached Richard Stevens, his longtime attorney, the response wasn't what he expected. I can't represent you, Ethan, Richard said firmly. The evidence she has, it's overwhelming. And with the company fraud investigation pending, I'd advise you to accept her terms. The terms were brutal. Full custody of Emma, the house, most of their assets, and a restraining order based on financial abuse. Olivia had documented everything meticulously, building an airtight case while he'd been distracted with Sophia. Desperate, he drove to their house, only to find the locks changed and a security system installed. Through the window he could see Olivia calmly feeding Emma in the kitchen. She looked up, met his eyes and slowly drew the curtains closed. His phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. My attorney says I should distance myself from you. I'm sorry, but I can't be involved in this mess. Ethan slumped against his steering wheel, the reality of his situation finally sinking in. His corporate credit cards were cancelled. His accounts were frozen. Even his personal cards were declined when he tried to buy coffee that morning. Back at his bare apartment, he found more papers waiting. A formal investigation notice from the SEC, a termination letter from the company's board, and a court order to preserve all financial records. In desperation, he called Olivia. Please, he began, we can work this out. Think about Emma. I am thinking about Emma, Olivia cut in, her voice steady. I'm thinking about the kind of example I want to set for our daughter, and it's not accepting betrayal and theft as love. You don't understand, he tried again. I was going to fix everything. No, Ethan, you don't understand. While you were building a fantasy with Sophia, I was building a case. Every lie, every stolen dollar, every betrayal, it's all documented. The only thing you can do now is sign the papers. You planned this, he realized, his voice hollow. I learned from the best, she replied quietly. Goodbye, Ethan. The line went dead, leaving him alone with the wreckage of his choices. Outside his window, the city continued its normal rhythm, indifferent to the collapse of his world. His phone buzzed one last time, a message from Daniel. The board is pressing charges. I'm sorry, but you did this to yourself. Ethan looked around his sparse apartment, at the divorce papers spread across his cheap coffee table, and finally understood. He hadn't just lost his marriage or his job, he'd lost everything, and this time, there was no lie big enough to fix it. The story broke this morning, Diana told Olivia, sliding her tablet across the desk. The headline glared back at them. High-flying executives' double life exposed. Sophia Martinez tells all. Sophia had sold her story to a major business magazine. The article was brutal, painting herself as an innocent young employee manipulated by a predatory boss. She detailed the fraud, the lies, even provided copies of emails and photos. But her final betrayal was the most devastating. She'd been recording their conversations for months. I did what I had to do, Sophia was quoted saying. Ethan made me believe we had a future, But when the cracks started showing, I realized he would throw me under the bus if it meant saving himself. I wasn't going to let that happen. Olivia read the article with a strange sense of detachment. The photos that had once broken her heart now seemed pathetic. Ethan and Sophia posing in expensive hotels, drinking champagne bought with stolen money. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. "Did you see what she did to me? Please, Olivia, I need to talk to you." She deleted it without responding. "This actually helps our case," Diana noted. "Between the company charges and this public confession, he has no leverage left." "What about Sophia?" Olivia asked. "The company's pursuing her too, but she made a deal. Limited immunity in exchange for evidence against Ethan. She's young, attractive, and playing the victim card perfectly. The media's eating it up." That evening, Olivia watched the news coverage while feeding Emma. Sophia had given a tearful interview, claiming she was just trying to survive in a male-dominated industry. She'd even launched a podcast about toxic workplace relationships. "Your timing was perfect," Diana called to say. "If you'd waited even a few more months, she might have beaten you to the punch. She was gathering evidence too, just not as thoroughly as you did." Ethan tried calling again. When Olivia didn't answer, he sent a desperate email. "Everything's gone. Sophia's lies are everywhere. You're the only one who knows the real me. Please, just talk to me. I'll do anything." Olivia thought about responding, about telling him that Sophia hadn't lied. She'd just revealed the truth he'd hidden for so long. Instead, she closed her laptop and focused on Emma, who was attempting to roll over for the first time. Later, scrolling through social media, she saw that Sophia had lost most of her followers. Her carefully curated influencer lifestyle was crumbling without Ethan's stolen money to fund it. Her last post was a sponsored ad for a discount jewelry brand, a far cry from the designer pieces she'd flaunted months ago. "Karma," Diana texted with a satisfied emoji. Olivia put her phone away and picked up Emma, breathing in her baby scent. "Sometimes," she whispered to her daughter, "the worst betrayals lead us to the best places." Outside, the spring sun was setting, painting their new life in shades of gold. The final divorce hearing took less than an hour. Ethan sat on the opposite side of the courtroom, his designer suit replaced by an off-the-rack blazer that hung loose on his frame. He barely looked up as the judge reviewed the settlement. "Given the evidence of financial misconduct and the pending criminal charges," the judge stated, "the court finds in favor of Mrs. Carter. Full custody of Emma Carter is granted to the mother, with supervised visitation rights for the father, pending the outcome of his criminal trial." Olivia sat straight-backed beside Diana, her face composed. The judge continued listing the terms: the house, the investments she'd protected, the majority of their assets. Ethan would keep only what he'd come into the marriage with, which after the company's lawsuit wouldn't be much. "Do you understand these terms, Mr. Carter?" the judge asked. "Yes, Your Honor," Ethan mumbled, his voice barely audible. Outside the courthouse, he tried one last time. "Olivia, please, I know I made mistakes, but..." "Mistakes?" She turned to face him fully for the first time in months. "You didn't make mistakes, Ethan. You made choices. Every lie, every betrayal, every dollar you stole, those were choices." "I still love you," he said desperately. Olivia smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "No, you loved what I represented, the perfect wife who never questioned you, who made you look good to the world. But that woman doesn't exist anymore. She grew up." She walked away, leaving him on the courthouse steps. Diana was waiting by the car. "Congratulations," her lawyer said. "How does it feel?" Olivia thought for a moment. "Peaceful," she answered. "For the first time in years, I feel peaceful." At home, she paid the nanny, took Emma in her arms, and walked through their house, now legally and entirely hers. The rooms that had once felt like a gilded cage now felt like a sanctuary. Her phone buzzed with a news alert. Ethan had pleaded guilty to the fraud charges. He would serve time, though not as much as he deserved. The article mentioned that Sophia Martinez had launched a successful speaking tour about corporate ethics of all things. Olivia deleted the alert without reading further. Their stories weren't hers anymore. Emma babbled happily, reaching for her favorite toy. At 8 months old, she was already showing a strong personality. Determined, curious, unafraid. "You're going to be stronger than I was," Olivia told her daughter. "You'll never let anyone make you doubt yourself." That evening, as they sat in the nursery rocking chair, Olivia felt the last pieces of anger and hurt finally dissolve. She had won, yes, but more importantly, she had survived. She had rebuilt herself from the ashes of Ethan's betrayal into someone stronger, wiser, and truly free. The setting sun painted Emma's nursery in soft gold, a perfect end to a perfect day. Their new life was just beginning. 6 months after the divorce, Olivia sat at her drafting table, rubbing her temples as she stared at the rejected bid on her screen. Rebuilding a career after years of being a stay-at-home mom wasn't easy, but she had no choice. "We're looking for someone with more recent experience," the rejection email read. Sighing, she glanced at the stack of unpaid invoices on the corner of her desk. She was getting there, slowly, but the path wasn't as effortless as outsiders might think. Emma's playpen sat in the corner, where the 1-year-old contentedly stacked blocks and babbled to herself. "What do you think, sweetie?" Olivia held up a sketch. "Should we go with the curved windows or straight?" Emma responded by triumphantly knocking over her tower of blocks, making them both laugh. The doorbell rang, her sister Sarah arriving for their weekly lunch. As they settled in the kitchen, Sarah noticed the stack of blueprints. 3 new projects this month, Sarah whistled. "You're really making a name for yourself," Olivia smiled, preparing Emma's lunch while they talked. "It feels good to be creating again. These clients specifically requested me after seeing the Thompson house renovation." "And how are you really doing?" Sarah asked softly. Olivia paused, considering. "Better than I expected. The hard days are getting fewer. Emma helps. She keeps me focused on the future." Her phone buzzed with an email from Diana. Ethan's first parole hearing was coming up. He'd written letters from prison trying to explain, to apologize, to reconnect. She'd returned them unopened. "Have you heard from Sophia?" Sarah asked. Her motivational speaking career crashed after someone leaked her own incriminating emails. "Last I heard, she'd moved back to her hometown." Olivia shrugged. "I don't keep track anymore." After lunch, Olivia took Emma to the park. As they sat in the sunshine watching other children play, she felt a deep sense of contentment. Her daughter was growing strong and happy, her business was thriving, and she was finally truly at peace. A young mother nearby was struggling with a stroller. Olivia remembered those early days of trying to do everything alone, thinking she had to prove something. "Need a hand?" she offered, moving to help. "Thanks," the woman smiled tiredly. "I'm still getting used to doing this solo." "It gets easier," Olivia assured her, "and you're stronger than you think." Back home, she received an unexpected call from Daniel. The company had fully recovered from Ethan's fraud, and they wanted to hire her firm for their new office redesign. "Are you sure?" she asked. "Given the history." "That's exactly why," Daniel replied. "You turned a bad situation into something positive. That's the kind of energy we want for this project." That evening, as she rocked Emma to sleep, Olivia reflected on how far they'd come. The pain hadn't disappeared completely. It probably never would, but it had transformed into something else. Wisdom, strength, resilience. She looked down at her sleeping daughter and whispered, "We did it, baby girl. We built something beautiful from the broken pieces." Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars, promising countless new beginnings. The halfway house was a far cry from the penthouse apartment Ethan once called home. His single room contained a narrow bed, a scratched desk, and a small window overlooking a brick wall. After serving 18 months, he'd been released on good behavior, but freedom felt more like another prison. "Mr. Carter," his parole officer said during their weekly meeting, "any luck with the job search?" Ethan shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "I've sent out dozens of applications. No one wants to hire an ex-con with fraud charges. Have you considered the positions I suggested? The warehouse is still hiring." The thought of manual labor made him wince. He'd tried one day of construction work and quit by lunch. His soft hands, used to signing contracts and holding whiskey glasses, weren't made for heavy lifting. His phone, a basic model, all he could afford now, showed another rejected payment notification. The small amount of money he'd managed to hide before everything collapsed was running out. His designer suits had been sold, his luxury watches pawned. Even his parents' beach house, which he'd tried to transfer to his name, had been seized in the settlement. Walking back to the halfway house, he passed a high-end restaurant where he used to dine. Through the window, he saw familiar faces, former colleagues enjoying expense account lunches. They noticed him too, but quickly looked away, their conversation continuing as if he were invisible. In his room, he opened his laptop, one of the few possessions Olivia had let him keep, and searched his own name. The articles still appeared. "Disgraced executive serves time for fraud. The fall of Ethan Carter, a cautionary tale." Some business schools were even using his case as an ethics example. A social media notification caught his eye. Sophia had blocked him months ago, but he could still see her public posts. She was back in her hometown, working as a junior sales representative at a local car dealership. Her last post showed her celebrating the sale of a used Honda, a far cry from the luxury lifestyle he'd once provided. He tried calling Olivia again, knowing she wouldn't answer. Her voicemail message was professional, businesslike. "You've reached Olivia Carter of Carter Architectural Design. Please leave a message." She'd kept his name for Emma's sake, but had built her own success with it. He'd seen her firm mentioned in architectural magazines, praised for innovative designs and sustainable practices. The sun set on another empty day. From his window, Ethan could see people returning home from work, carrying takeout bags, laughing with friends. Normal lives that now seemed as distant as his former wealth. In the bathroom mirror, he hardly recognized himself. Grey had crept into his temples. Worry lines creased his forehead. The confident smile that had charmed boardrooms and beautiful women had been replaced by a haunted look. Rock bottom, he whispered to his reflection. But he was wrong. There was still further to fall. The bell above the door chimed as another customer left Mountain View Motors without making a purchase. Sophia Martinez sat at her desk, staring at her sales numbers for the month. 3 used cars sold, barely enough to cover her rent in the small apartment she now shared with 2 roommates. Her phone notification showed another lost follower on Instagram. From her peak of 500,000 followers during the scandal, she'd dropped to barely 5,000. Her last sponsored post, for a discount vitamin company, had received only 12 likes. "Martinez," her manager called out, "the 2015 Civic needs to be moved to the front lot. Take care of it." She grabbed the keys, her designer heels, the last pair she owned from her former life, clicking against the concrete. The sound reminded her of boardroom meetings and 5-star hotels, all funded by Ethan's stolen money. During her lunch break, she scrolled through old photos on her phone. There she was in Paris, draped in luxury brands. In the Maldives, sipping champagne by infinity pools, each image a reminder of how far she'd fallen. An email notification popped up, another rejection from a PR firm. Her attempt to rebrand as a corporate ethics speaker had backfired spectacularly when her own incriminating emails leaked. No one wanted to hear about workplace ethics from someone who'd participated in fraud. The local coffee shop where she now counted pennies for a basic brew was a far cry from the artisanal cafes she used to frequent. As she waited in line, she overheard 2 women discussing a business magazine. "Did you see Olivia Carter's new project? That sustainable office building downtown? Amazing work. Can't believe what she went through with her ex-husband." Sophia slipped out before they could recognize her. Back at the dealership, she tried to focus on the sales training manual, but her mind wandered to her old office, her expense account, her future that had seemed so bright. Her phone buzzed. A message from her mother. "Dinner at home tonight. Dad made lasagna." Moving back in with her parents had been the ultimate humiliation, though she'd only lasted 2 weeks before finding her own place. Their disappointment had been harder to bear than the loss of her lifestyle. At her desk, a newspaper caught her eye. A small article mentioned Ethan's release from prison. She quickly turned the page, but not before catching his haggard appearance in the accompanying photo. The afternoon dragged on. A young couple came in looking for their first car, the kind of people she would have looked down on during her influencer days. Now she smiled, showed them features on a pre-owned sedan, celebrated when they decided to buy. As she filled out the paperwork, her former life felt like a distant dream. The glamour, the excitement, the illusion of success, all gone, replaced by the harsh fluorescent lights of a small-town car dealership. This, she realized, was her new reality. No filters could beautify it, no clever captions could spin it. She had become exactly what she'd always feared, ordinary. A year had passed since his release, and Ethan sat alone in his studio apartment above a laundromat. The TV droned in the background, some lifestyle show featuring expensive homes he used to be able to afford. His dinner consisted of microwaved noodles, eaten directly from the container. His phone displayed an email from his lawyer, another rejected appeal for increased visitation rights with Emma. Olivia had maintained strict supervision requirements, and he'd missed the last 3 scheduled visits due to his irregular work hours at the convenience store. Through social media, he'd watched his daughter grow through carefully filtered glimpses on Olivia's professional page. Emma was 3 now, with his eyes but Olivia's determined expression. In the latest photo, she sat at a tiny drawing table in her mother's office, scribbling on blueprints just like Olivia. He tried calling again, rehearsing his speech about change and redemption. The call went straight to voicemail. At work, customers sometimes recognized him, usually former business associates who'd pretend not to see him as he rang up their gas and cigarettes. His name badge read Ed now, easier than explaining who he used to be. His parole officer had suggested therapy, but he couldn't afford it. Instead, he spent nights staring at old photos, tracing his descent from corporate titan to convicted felon. The images blurred together: board meetings, affair hotels, court appearances, prison cells. A notification popped up, news about Olivia's firm winning another award for innovative design. The article mentioned her as a single mother who'd rebuilt her life after scandal, turning tragedy into triumph. No mention of him, except as a cautionary footnote. Late that night, he walked past their old house. Through the windows, he could see Olivia reading to Emma in the living room. The scene was achingly domestic, everything he'd thrown away for an illusion of excitement. His apartment felt colder when he returned. On his desk lay overdue bills and rejected job applications. His MBA and years of experience meant nothing now. His criminal record overshadowed everything. In the bathroom mirror, he practiced his convenience store smile. "Thank you, come again," he whispered to his reflection. The man who'd once commanded boardrooms now struggled to maintain eye contact with customers buying lottery tickets. This, he realized, was his true punishment, not the prison time or lost wealth, but the slow torture of watching life continue without him, knowing every loss was earned by his own choices. Emma would grow up without knowing him. Olivia would continue to succeed without him, and he would remain here, haunting the edges of their lives like a cautionary tale about the price of betrayal. On Emma's 4th birthday, Olivia watched her daughter blow out the candles on her cake. The party was small, just family and close friends in their backyard. Emma wore a tiny, hard hat, insisting she was an architect like Mommy. Sarah helped serve cake while Daniel's kids played with Emma on the new swing set. The afternoon sun caught the Carter architectural design sign visible through Olivia's home office window, a reminder of how far they'd come. A text arrived from the supervised visitation center. Ethan had cancelled again. Olivia deleted it without comment. These notifications had stopped causing pain long ago. Later, after the guests left and Emma was asleep clutching her new drawing set, Olivia sat in her garden. The rose bushes she'd planted after the divorce were in full bloom, their scent filling the evening air. Her phone buzzed with a message from a client about their upcoming project. 3 years ago, she'd been a stay-at-home mum, believing her role was to support Ethan's success. Now she ran one of the city's most respected architectural firms. She thought about Ethan, spotted occasionally stocking shelves at the corner store. About Sophia, selling used cars in her hometown. Their fall from grace had been spectacular, but Olivia felt no satisfaction in their suffering. She'd moved beyond the need for revenge. Emma's laughter echoed in her memory, pure, joyful, untainted by betrayal. That was the true victory, protecting her daughter from the toxicity of Ethan's choices while building something beautiful from the ashes he'd left behind. The stars emerged above their home, their sanctuary. Olivia smiled, feeling the quiet strength she'd discovered within herself. She didn't need to destroy Ethan to win. Living well, raising Emma with integrity, and finding peace, that was the best revenge of all. "Mommy," Emma called from upstairs. "One more story?" Olivia headed inside, leaving the past where it belonged, behind her. Their future was bright, built on a foundation stronger than betrayal, more enduring than revenge. It was built on truth. If you connected with Olivia's story of resilience, please like and share this video with someone who needs strength to start over. Every like helps us reach more people who can benefit from this message of hope and transformation. Join our supportive community by subscribing to the channel and turn on notifications for more inspiring stories like this one. Tell me in the comments, which country are you watching from and which part of the story touched your heart the most?